Welcome back to Desk Careers, everybody. I'm so excited to bring another amazing guest to our interview platform. Today we speak to Nkala, who is an audit associate at KPMG. Not only is she working, but she's also a fresh university graduate. Today we're going to be talking about her academic interests, how she found work through a pandemic, and what she looks forward to, and some of the tips she might be offering a young student considering a career path just like hers. Welcome, Sandy. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here. Such an honor to be able to speak to the students.
It's so great to have you here. I'm really excited about today's interview because I believe that you're going to be bringing a perspective that most professionals who are right at the top of their career journey would have forgotten, and what it feels like to be a fresh university graduate starting at the beginning of your career journey. And that is really a perspective that a lot of our older students will be curious about. So it's really exciting to have you here. Before we get into the details of what you are going to be doing at work and what you are currently doing, let's go back to those early teenage years. You know, the years where you were a secondary student and you were taking subjects. Maybe you went to a school that gave you the options to take subjects, and maybe your school didn't give you those options. But if you think back to that time, what were the subjects that you were most interested in?
During high school, the subjects that I was most interested in included, I loved history, I loved English, I loved accounting, and business as a whole. So I think that played quite a big role in me choosing accounting as my career path.
How did you know accounting was going to be that career path?
Well, I moved to 3 different high schools in 3 different countries. So when I moved to South Africa from Zimbabwe, I had never done accounting before. And I got there and I was completely clueless, but within a few months, I was able to master some key concepts in accounting. And I loved that I could easily pick up the simple things in that particular subject. It made me completely love it. You know, when you're good at something, you just automatically love it. So that's just pretty much how my love for accounting started. And it just became really fun for me. It was like a puzzle. I like to balance the figures. And that's pretty much where it started.
That's amazing. 3 countries, 3 schools. How did that shape you as a young adult today?
Well, it was definitely different in every single country, but it definitely made me able to adapt to many different situations. And I learned different cultures, different upbringings, and I just became more open-minded and more knowledgeable. And it just made me a person that was hungry for learning more, experiencing more, and so forth. And I think when I came to the UAE, it was just, you know, another experience for me to discover and make the most out of, you know, the country and the opportunities that it presented.
That's brilliant. Sandy, talk to us about being an audit associate. So I know that you're right at the beginning of this career journey. As this episode is being published, you have just started your new job. It's October, you're new and fresh at KPMG, and you have a job title that says you're an audit associate. What does that entail?
All right, so it's pretty much a graduate audit associate. Companies like the Big Four usually try to recruit graduates because it's kind of like the chartered accountant journey. So that's kind of pretty much the top of the hierarchy for accountants. And you go into training and development to qualify for your chartered accountancy through KPMG. And basically, a normal day would entail you being part of an audit team with the partner and senior audit associates. You may go visit a client and you may, you know, find some evidence about, you know, whether the company is actually presenting what they wrote in their financial statements. You test out their balances and figures. And then towards the end of the audit assignment with the client, then you determine whether they're actually did do well in terms of presenting their financial statements well or not.
Amazing. I know that you did internships before you're obviously starting this career. What types of internships did you do, and how do you believe they're preparing you for this job at KPMG?
Yes, the funny thing is all my internships had completely nothing to do with accounting. So that's something that students can know as well, that when they get to university, they don't really need to stick to what they want to do. But my first internship was with a company called Bareface. I was a booker intern, and it was like a modeling and talent agency. It was really simple tasks. I was just doing some filing, doing some paperwork, and it just, as I began to do my work well, they began to give me more responsibility. And that pretty much gave me much more confidence and belief in myself in the workplace. So that was just kind of the stepping stone. And, you know, towards the end of the internship, they gave me a really good goodbye. So by the time I went to my next internship, I was getting an even higher salary. I had more experience, and I was then again more confident. I was working at Transnational Academic Group, which is part of Curtin University. It was very flexible because right after class, I could just go to work. It was careers. So I actually had the advantage to take that role and learn how to properly do my CV and build my personal brand and perfect my LinkedIn as well. So that was a really helpful job in my career. And then my third internship was with a company called Hunter Foods. It's a snack company. I was a business project intern, so it was kind of falling into business, and I was handling a lot of projects in the particular industry, and it just made me work more independently. I learned how to work in a team. I learned how to talk to clients. I learned how to cold call, and it just gave me a lot of skills that I know will be really good for KPMG. Not just those kind of skills like hard skills, but soft skills as well, such as interpersonal ones, such as communication, you know, being able to adapt, and so forth. So all these internships may not have anything to do with accounting, but they definitely played quite a role in building some hard and soft skills in time for KPMG.
Brilliant. Now, I know there's going to be a secondary student watching this thinking, you know, Sandy, what are some of the things they ask you at a job interview? What would you say were the things that you remember about doing those job interviews? I'm sure KPMG was not the only job interview you would have had. I'm sure you applied for lots of jobs, but what can you remember that interview experience to be like?
Well, I know they basically do most of the time ask you what you're about. Who is Sandy? You know, they really want to get to know you, and they really want to get to know your authentic self. The next thing they'll probably ask you is why this particular company, especially a company like KPMG. There's the big four. So you have Deloitte, you have PwC, you have Ernst & Young, and then you have KPMG. And they want to know why out of those four you're choosing this particular company. For instance, and this applies to every other company, they will ask you what you want to do with your career. Pretty much like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? They will ask you what your hobbies and likes are, because they want to get to know the kind of person you are and whether you'll fit with the workplace culture as well. That's important. So, you know, even things like whether you travel or whether you like to go out and eat or go for dancing, it's also really important. And they'll probably ask you if you understand work-life balance, because that's something that's becoming a trend in our world today. So those are a couple of important questions that they do ask for an interview. So I recommend that, you know, the students do prepare for those kind of questions, but also behavioral questions. So basically situational ones as well. For instance, if one of your team members did wrong in a project, how would you react in that situation? So they also want to get to know what you would do in uncomfortable situations, because they also want honest people working for them as well.
Amazing. How did you prepare for that?
It was a lot of preparation. You do have to prepare all the way from the aptitude test. There are a couple of free practice tests on the internet that I spent days, working on. And then I passed the aptitude test. And then you have to also prepare for the interview. And then those questions are freely available online because the Big Four is so huge. A lot of people try to get into these companies and there's a lot of material. So I just pretty much downloaded like 50 possible questions, and answered them at my own time, practiced them and memorized them until I was, ready for the interview.
Sandy, I have to say, as a careers practitioner, you are starting your career in one of the most uncertain times that we have seen in our time. How did that feel, applying for work through a pandemic?
It was really challenging. The thing is, I started to apply for jobs way before, coronavirus became a thing. It was around January, February. So things were still fine at that time. And I got in touch with KPMG and a few other companies. And then COVID happened and everyone went silent, So what I did was like, okay, I have no control over what's happening now, but I can just keep reminding them that I'm here. So I kept sending emails every month to tell them, oh, I understand that, recruitment is frozen, but I just wanted to ask if there are any updates. So every month I just kept following up until it got to a point where the economy recovered and the jobs, had opened up and they began to actually respond to me and move on to the next interview stage. So it was really just a lot about patience and following up during this time in order to get, jobs.
I just think that's incredible that you had the commitment, the drive, and the momentum to keep staying positive through these challenging times. And young people today that will eventually start applying for work in the next 3 to 4 years, regardless of a pandemic or not, it's always quite challenging for a fresh graduate to get into the employment pool. This is not your home country. What tips can you offer someone who will be traveling either back to their home country or traveling abroad to work in a different country and not quite sure how they're going to adapt to that?
All right. So the first thing I would say is to network. Network is key. I feel like a lot of the times you can't really get some of these jobs without, knowing someone that can vouch for you. So with companies like Hunter Foods and KPMG, I met them at the Curtin Career Fair, and I just made sure that I stayed in touch with the recruiters. So that's basically something that you really have to prioritize. And the second thing that a student would have to do is to do everything to the best of their ability. I feel like when you do that, you build some kind of a reputation for yourself that even the people around you, such as your lecturers or even your dean, will vouch for you and hand opportunities over to you because you'd have already defined a great personal brand. And the last thing I would say is to gain as much experience possible. Yes, I did not do any accounting experience, but every employer knows that, you can learn something from each of these industries. And I feel like in accounting, because they audit companies like this, it is helpful for me to actually have had a background in working in some of them. So do as many internships as possible, volunteer as much as possible. It really does open a lot of doors, and you start off with a much higher salary than every other graduate because of that as well.
Okay, Sandy, I'm going to go into gender and discussion around gender. What's it like to be female in a male-dominated industry? What's it like to be working in that industry that typically sees more men than women?
Well, it's very tough because I think at the back of your mind, you question yourself and wonder if you are good enough. But I've just pretty much built some thick skin and just came to myself and knew that what I was capable of and what I can do, and not let, me going into male dominated industry stop me from achieving my goals and my dreams. So I just go there and I tell myself, I'm not a woman. I'm just as good of an employee here. And I'm going to work hard and prove myself,
That's
no
so
matter what it
amazing.
takes.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And then there's age as well, right? So there's something called ageism. Do you think that not only your gender, but also your age might become an obstacle to prove that you know what you're doing and that you're capable of doing it? Is that a thing?
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely a thing. I think I was just helped by the fact that I'm mature. So a lot of the time, my employers didn't actually know my real age. And when I did tell them my real age, they were pleasantly surprised. So I think if you go in there, having confidence and doing everything well, they may even question if you're really as young as you are. Everyone at any age is capable of anything. We have 16-year-old millionaires and entrepreneurs. So it's really a good time to be able to find respect at the workplace. Just be confident, believe in yourself, and do every task to the best of your ability. You will earn respect in that way.
Amazing, amazing. And my last question, I promise, I know I'm asking you so much, but
No worries.
let's go back to the younger you, the much younger you. Who did you look up to in your career journey? Who was the person, or was there the role model that you looked at and thought, you inspire me. I really want to be the best of me because of you?
I would have to say, I'm not going to name a corny celebrity because it's much closer than that. My mom is my biggest role model. She also had to move to 3 different countries, but in every single, country or company that she worked for, she succeeded because she was very hardworking, and, she always made sure that she stayed ahead of the game. And she was also very encouraging and motivating. She told me that I can do anything that I put my mind to as long as I do everything to the best of my ability. She always guided me. And in the most toughest situations, my mom can get herself out of it, especially when it comes to her children. So she just instantly always became my role model, even to this day, because of everything she has achieved.
That's amazing. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Sandy. Thank you for being here with us and sharing your journey, your insights, and also the realities of what it's like to be you through this challenging time. And that brings us to the end of another amazing interview. That was Sandy Nkala, an audit associate at KPMG and also a fresh university graduate just starting her career journey. Thank you for watching. We'll see you all again at our next Desk Careers Spotlight.